Good evening. Glad to see such a great crowd. I'm going to call the Raytown Board of Aldermen Committee of the Whole, October 19th, 2021, in session. It is now 6:30 exactly p.m. And I am going to ask Ms. Henry to call the roll.
I don't see the city clerk present on the Zoom yet.
Okay. You want to go ahead, Counselor?
Absolutely. Alderman Walters. Alderman Scott.
Here.
Okay. Alderman Azier.
Here.
Oh, jeez.
Alderwoman Hayden.
Here.
Alderman Myers.
Here.
Alderwoman Emerson.
Here.
Alderwoman Van Buskirk.
Here.
Alderman Van Buskirk.
Here.
Alderwoman Mims. Alderman Ward.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum. I'd like to ask for approval of the September 7th, 2021 Committee of the Whole meeting minutes. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Ms. Emerson,
Second.
you have a motion. Second by Ms. Hayden. Call the roll, please.
Alderwoman Emerson.
Yes.
Alderwoman Hayden.
Yes.
Alderman Scott.
Yes.
Alderman Ward.
Yes.
Alderman Van Buskirk.
Abstain.
Alderman Van Buskirk.
Abstain.
Okay. Alderman Azier
Yes.
and Alderman Myers.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Next on the agenda is sewer bond update. Damon Hodges, City Administrator, and Russ Petry, Finance Director. Good sirs, what do you have for us?
Yes, good evening. This evening we have our Finance Director, Russ Petry, but also Kaylin Dwyer, our Finance Advisor. Each year, but this past year, we've talked, myself and Russ and Kaylin, reviewing our debt. And one of the items we've been reviewing is our bonds, our sewer bonds. With the current financial, how should I put this? Financial, current finances that we're in, interest is lower than what it was in previous years. So what we did was look at bonds and try to go from there as far as what opportunities we may have in order to refinance or do things like that. But not trying to steal all of Kaylin's thunder. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to him, and he will explain more our current status on our bonds as well as opportunities we may have in the future.
Great.
Would
Thanks, Damon.
please reflect that Alderman Bonnie Mims has joined us since roll was taken. All right, go ahead.
Great. Thanks, Damon. Good afternoon, Mayor, Board of Aldermen. You should have received a one-page summary that kind of summarizes, as Damon alluded to, a potential refinancing opportunity.
They haven't yet. We're going to pass those out, Kaylin.
Okay, great. I'll note that I've tried to share my screen here of the one-page summary, but I'm getting an error message that says the host has disabled that feature for me. I don't know if there's a way to override that.
Try again now.
Okay. There we go. Okay, 1 second here. Okay, can you guys see that that summary?
Yes,
Excellent.
they all have
All right.
it. It's impressive.
Yes.
Great. Great. So I'll dive in here real quick. As Damon mentioned, we've been taking a look at the city's outstanding sewer system indebtedness, and I've actually provided a quick summary here, an overview at the top of the page here of all the loans and bonds that are outstanding. There are currently 3 series of bonds of outstanding on the sewer system, 2 of which are loans through the state's SRF program, revolving fund program, Series 2006A and Series 2007A. And then the third, which we'll be talking about tonight, is the Series 2013 bonds. These are outstanding in the amount of about $1.2 million.
Kaylin, do you mind go ahead and repeating the amounts of those first 2 for the public? They do not have this sheet, so it'll be good for them to hear what those amounts will be in case they cannot see the screen.
Yeah, happy to. Yeah, so 2006A, a loan from the state, is outstanding in the amount of $2.6 million with a final maturity in 2026. And that accrues interest at a rate of about 4.5% to 4.75%, depending on the maturity. Like I said, that'll be fully paid off in 2026. 2007A loan from the same program, it's outstanding in the amount of about $2.5 million with a final maturity in 2028. And that's accruing interest also at a rate of about 4.2 to 4.75%. Again, depending on the maturity there, but it will be fully paid off in 2028. And then the Series 2013 bonds, which is our potential refinancing opportunity here. So these are outstanding in the amount of about $1.1 million with a final maturity about 5.5 years away here, July 1, 2027. These are currently, they became eligible for prepayment this year. So at the city's option, we can issue additional bonds to refund the outstanding bonds at interest rates that are prevailing in today's market. The current bonds are accruing interest at 3.25% to a little over 4% today. And we can issue new bonds, we're thinking, at around 1% or so, 1.2%. We could generate an estimated savings of approximately $60,000. That's after all costs related to the financing here. And that comes to about 5% of the refunded principal amount. I'll note that due to the small nature of the transaction size here, $1 million, minimizing transaction fees and expenses is vital to making the economics work here. And in the event that we don't get a bid that's attractive, or for whatever reason the cost would exceed the savings for this financing, then it simply won't happen. We won't go forward. But we believe, based on what we know now, that the cost would not exceed the potential savings. In fact, savings would be, like I said, about $60,000 on the net, and the interest rate would be around 1 or 1.2% or so. So if the city does decide to pursue this opportunity, there are 2 ways to sell these bonds here, one of which I think is the only viable opportunity or option, and I'll discuss why I think that's so here. So traditionally, there are 2 ways to sell bonds, either in the private placement market, which is to say that you can get a loan from a financial institution or have a financial institution purchase the city's bonds directly to hold as an investment. The other more common method would be public offering, in which case an investment bank is hired. The city engages in an underwriting team, an investment bank, to underwrite the bonds or purchase the bonds and then resell those to the public. Because of the nature of this transaction and its small size, I would encourage the city to pursue a private placement in this instance. The short reason for that is because if we were to pursue a public offering, the additional cost associated with that, which would include underwriting fees and costs related to getting the bonds rated, so costs from S&P Global, which is the credit agency that would rate the bonds, costs related to bond counsel preparing what's called an official statement, which is the legal offering document available to the public, which describes the bonds, and then a few other costs related to an auction platform or securities identifiers. Essentially, because of those additional expenses, the cost, if we were to do this on a public basis, would about double, and it would overshadow the potential benefit of a lower interest rate by, say, 0.1 or 0.2%, which is what we estimated we would be able to earn on a public basis. So Because of that, the economics simply don't work for a public sale. We think the best way to move forward here is to do this on a private placement basis. And I've kind of outlined the next steps here, which would include issuing an RFQ for private placement. So I work with city's bond counsel in the city to get this on the street in the next day or so, to solicit bids from potential banks offering terms, conditions, and interest rate on the new financing. We would then evaluate those responses and select the best option for the city in terms of generating the most savings and the most favorable terms, engage that bank, and then move forward accordingly. And the approval process would entail, I believe, authorizing the bonds at the board's meetings in November, or the last meeting in November, and then the first meeting in December. And then a potential transaction closing in mid-December. So with that's the opportunity here in a nutshell. With that, I'll turn it over to either Damon or the board in case you guys have any questions for me.
There's a lot to take in. Huh? Any questions?
Can't hear you very well. There you
A lot to take in.
go. Now we can hear you.
Is any questions? But ultimately, we've looked at the opportunity to take advantage of the current market, with the interest rate being lower, and the fact of the three bonding, like Kayla mentioned. The first two are the ones that were done through the state. The other one was bonds that we issued ourselves in 2013. So the private placement allows us to minimize the amount of financial impact up front, which will allow us to have more savings in the back. And that's $60,000 is savings throughout the entire bond, not annual or not monthly. That's the entire bond. So when you compare the amount of $1 million and the savings of $60,000, it's not a large amount, but it is the amount. But long term, it makes sense to try to do better with using interest rates to manage your debt, which allows us to lessen the amount of payments we have to do. These will come for our sewer bonds, are paid through our sewer account, which is a account only dedicated to sewer response, whether it be our treatment, sewer projects, or even maintenance of the sewer lines, or including our staff that works on the financial portion of the sewer. So any questions, be more than willing to answer those.
Alderman Ryan Myers.
Thank you for the presentation. So I just lost my train of thought. So refining these bonds, is the maturity going to be the same? And do you kind of have a ballpark idea what the fees are going to entail?
Yeah, great question. So the maturity would remain the same. We wouldn't be extending it. It would be the same final maturity, 2027. And the fees would entail financial advisory fees, so fees for us, Columbia Capital Management, and bond counsel fees. And then, so that's QTAC Rock, City's bond counsel. And then any fees that the bank charges the city on behalf of its counsel to prepare or review any documents. And those fees are traditionally pretty minimal, if any at all. So in total, you're looking at fees of around $35,000 or $40,000 for the private placement. And the savings in total, after you deduct all those fees, would be $60,000 directly to the city.
Okay, so the savings are net of the fees.
That's right.
Okay,
That's right. So you're looking at $100,000 savings total minus the fees. 60 goes to the city.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, that's a pretty good chunk of change. In terms of rates, the SRF, because it's state, or is it actually state backed? Are they like guaranteed so we get a lower rate, or is it going to be pretty similar?
Yeah. So the SRF loans, it's my understanding that the state is no longer accepting applications or entertaining the prospect of refinancing from program participants there. As I understand it, administrators of the loan program have taken this measure to as a precaution relating to potential problems for large volumes and prepayments simply due to the fact that interest rates are at unusually low levels, and a high volume of prepayments or refundings could jeopardize the integrity of the portfolio or the program itself. So, and that's the extent of my knowledge in that regard. But my understanding is that the program is across the board no longer accepting refinancing applications. So at this time, the Series 2013 bonds would be the only option for refinancing. And assuming that that's successful, that interest rate would be around 1% or so, which would be by far the lowest interest rate on the city's outstanding debt.
Gotcha.
Did that answer your question, Ryan?
Yeah, I think it does.
Okay.
Damon, you need a motion for this?
I do not. I wanted to make you as a board aware of it before we put it out for the RFQ process.
Okay.
After that, when the RFQ process comes back, we'll review and work with Kalen and bring it to you as a board,
Okay.
whatever suggestion we may have from meeting with our bond counsel along with our financial advisor on next steps.
Ms. Hayden?
Ryan asked my question, so.
Oh, okay.
When it works for me, I mean, $60,000, that's part of a police car.
And Mr. Van Busker?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think you already answered this, sir, but you said the other bonds are not eligible to refinance at this time. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
And that's a relatively recent policy change at the at EIERA, or the Department of Natural Resources that administers the program.
Okay. And certainly I agree with Alderman Myers. I think we need to take it take advantage of this opportunity, and $60,000 is certainly well worth it if we can get it done. So I would favor it.
All right, anyone else? Can't hear.
Alderman Ward had his hand up at one point.
I did. I took it down. Thank you, Damon.
Okay,
Mr. Hodges.
that's what I thought.
Damon's fine.
Anybody else?
Do we need a head nod on this or anything?
We do not. We'll bring it back to you once we get the RFQs back and proposals back from the banks, and then that would be the time we'll have to vote from there.
What if we all shook our heads no? What would no?
Well, you can shake your heads no. I think.
Yeah, Damon was explaining that about 5 minutes ago
But
about how
the other,
they were going to do that.
Going back to your question, I do wanted to also make an announcement. We received, and we will begin the announcement, correct, on S&P of a stable rating in the near future, which is a very good thing. So before we had, it was not stable. What was and now it's stable rating, which goes back to the choices that we've made both together as a board and as staff, with Kalen's advice, along with our bond counsel, and they're going to move our rating up to A+, which is excellent news from us for future items like this. So I just want to speak to that and just talk about the efficiency, but also all the effectiveness of having plans in place. And the things that they brought out was the fact that we're working and have a capital improvement plan that shows how much we have to spend out in the coming years, which shows us having a plan of what we need to do in our spending, along with choices that we made of try to pay as we go, along with making significant advancements in doing capital projects, spending 1.4 this year, and plans coming for next year of doing more sanitary sewer projects. This is strictly doing towards our sanitary sewer bonds, but that speaks to making efficient and good choice and sound decisions on our finances. So
I'm going to ask you to repeat one more time where people can hear you a little bit better, because I think it's important that people know that we're taking good care of their money. Where are we again? What grade?
A+.
A+.
And a stable rating
And
is what we have when it comes to our sanitary sewer bonds, which is speaks to the choices we made. They also spoke to just the different financial choices we made over the past couple of years. They do it every year? What years do they do it at, Kalen? Is it every 2 years?
Every couple of years, yeah.
Yes.
S&P typically
Reviews.
does what they call a surveillance review. So if the city issues bonds, for instance, and they're publicly offered, S&P will usually offer or provide a rating on those bonds. In instances like this, in which the city hasn't been in the market recently, at least not with public bonds, S&P has to maintain those ratings and do its due diligence on the city's credit, and it does that periodically with either annual or biannual, every couple of years, reviews of the city's credit. And it entails a phone call, if not a site visit. I think this time it was just a phone call with city staff. And I was on that call and walking through the city's recent sewage performance and its debt service coverage, which is its revenues minus its expenses divided by ongoing debt service costs. Basically, as Damon spoke to, S&P has indicated that it's removing the negative outlook on the A+ rating and changing that to stable based on management policies, successful performance years in the sewage from the sewage utility, and strong revenue coverage of about 2 times over the past few years. For those reasons, S&P removed its negative outlook.
So that's a testament to the work we've done as staff and the work we've done with you all as a board, along with having consultants who give us good advice on next steps that we were trying to take. So things like this is for us refinancing, along with making choices of actually doing a capital improvement plan. I know we probably bring a lot of studies and plans before you, but that also shows the efficiency of knowing where to spend your money in the future, along with having a fund balance and along with having a strategic way of paying off the different debt that you may have. So.
Very good, thank you. Anybody else have any other questions? Okay, very good. Take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Mr. Azier has the motion. Ms. Van Buskirk has the second. Let's do this by affirmation. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone against? Okay, we are adjourned at 6:52. Be back here at 7 o'clock sharp.